And you're not being told the full truth by the same people that didn't tell you the full truth before 9/11. They were nonchalant about the threat of before 9/11, and they're doing it now. The same people are telling you now that the Muslim Brotherhood and the fall of Egypt is all about freedom. It is not. It is not about freedom. It is not about democracy. It is about an Islamic state.
We're back. That was Glenn Beck last night on his program, warning his audience about an Islamic State takeover the world, basically. Wanted to describe what he calls the worst-case scenario, which he thinks is somewhat imminent. A caliphate that starts in Egypt and spreads to nearby countries all through Europe. Europe's going to be taken over. All this, to distract us from any kind of serious conversation that might involve thought. We've got joining us right now, David Corn. Thank you for joining us from, of course, Mother Jones, and Joan Walsh from Salon.com. I always wonder about motive. Joan, why would someone in the midst of a very tricky, and anybody doesn't say this tricky isn't thinking. Not everybody thought it was brilliant to dump Barack 10, 20 years ago. I'm very mixed about the guy. I do remember when he came in and saved our bacon after the assassination of Anwar Sadat, who was godly as far as I'm concerned in terms of taking chances for peace. He stuck with the compromise. He stuck with Israel, a cold peace, but so much better. He allowed Jordan to join and perhaps put a lot of pressure on the West Bank Palestinians to try to join in some kind of peace treaty. He has always done what I thought was, in the big picture, right for his country, although he was not a Democrat. He was not one of us by any philosophical standards about democracy. But what is Glenn Beck doing? I really want to focus on this because it's what a lot of people are going to be hearing on the right, that this is some kind of conspiracy. By the way, in my close to that, I point out, Glenn Beck not only says the Caliphate is coming, he's saying that both Barack Obama and, unlikely enough, George W. Bush are in cahoots on this, that they made a point during our bombing campaigns of not bombing ancient Babylon, which is to be the seat of the new Caliphate, and that we're all in on this. This is, I do not use the term lightly, Looney Tunes, but that's what he's selling. Your thoughts? And what's it about? Why are they doing this?
You asked. Well, I think we know what it's about. It's two things. He is definitely losing his audience. He's lost it by about a third, and he may be losing his mind. He really may be losing his mind. I mean, this is so crazy. If you really watch that whole thing, and China, I think, is going to take over, and they're going to reach down to Australia, and then Russia's going to grab I mean, it's nuttiness.
It's Captain Queeg stuff. It is Captain Queeg stuff.
It's Captain
and by the way, the bunny
stuff.
Rabbit and the chainsaw the other night, I thought he had, I don't know about a guy's psychological or mental or even emotional condition. I can only watch. But when a guy pulls out a chainsaw and threatens to cut the rabbit in half, and this is, I guess that's what you thought I was going to do, you have to wonder, why did you want us to think that was what you were going to do?
Well, and what is Roger Ailes thinking? I mean, I just have to ask that. He is not crazy. He's got his own values, and but he's a businessman, and I feel like we are watching someone kind of fall apart on television, and how much longer that's going to go on, I think, is a question.
It's like a bad version of the movie Network.
Yeah.
Where this guy is becoming
we sort of like Peter Finch.
There he's sort of speaking truth to power. But Glenn Beck is coming up not just with conspiracy theories, but the most ridiculous ones, in which he really says that the Uber left and the Islamists around the world are in cahoots together to destroy the world.
This reminded me, by the way, I grew up with this as a kid. I thought he was trying to be Bishop Sheen here for the 1950s with the blackboards and everything. Here he is, Professor Glenn Beck. By the way, I'm crazy as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. It would be his Howard Field line. Let's take a look. Here he is with what he calls his evidence that the left, by the way, that's us, I suppose, around this table or nearby, are causing and plotting the uprising in Egypt. The American left is doing this. Let's listen to Glenn Beck.
We have evidence of the uber left, the anarchist and the communist and the socialist, the radicals, sowing the seeds and helping those in Egypt. All they want is more pressure on the United States. This isn't about the people there. This is about changing the globe. The storm that I've talked about for many years is here. The coming insurrection is here.
Joan, I'm not sure what side he is thinking people are on. I assume he's pro-American in some vague sense. But Beck is. But was he saying that the left in America is trying to bring down the presidency of Barack Obama? and using the Caliphate to do it?
By creating chaos.
We've organized, like Oliver Stone, we've organized those crowds out there. We have done this. We who are against him have done this to get them to dump Mubarak, a friend of the United States, for 30 years because he's not perfect. And we've done it so we could establish Islamic rule in France, Portugal, Spain. It's all part of a plan. So that's why we don't bomb Babylon in Iraq during our sorties over there.
As though Islamic regimes are kind to the left, as though there's a real natural alliance there. No, it's completely crazy, and it all gets back to our president, who, a lot of them want to insinuate he's either soft on Islam or a Muslim himself. We've got our friend Frank Gaffney saying that the Muslim Brotherhood has infiltrated the Obama administration and the government. They are going nuts on this question at a time when,
I haven't heard
let's be honest,
You're ahead of me on that one. The Irish neocon has struck again.
Yeah.
I mean, Gaffney he's got this whole theory about we're all into Sharia law, that Sharia is taking over every state.
Yes, and we're all going to be, which he didn't worry about before Barack Obama was president. He worried about many other threats to the United States, but not that one. So you have to wonder why it's only come up in the last 2 years.
Here's John Bolton, another one of these guys. He's not a full mooner, but he's certainly pretty far out. He's a former U.S. ambassador to George W. Bush. He's not crazy. The scary thing is this guy isn't. By the way, never mind. Watch him. He was on Sean Hannity yesterday on radio talking about Israel needing to strike now against those Iranian sites. Let's go. Even though I think that the Israelis are so much smarter than Bolton or any of us in terms of figuring out how to screw that system up. I think I know what I'm talking about here, and we all do. Let's take a listen to what this guy Bolton is saying now.
Do you think that the Israelis are going to have to strike, and it's got to be they are going to have to take action? In other words, the world doesn't seem to be supporting them. As you pointed out, al-Baradei, ran cover for the Iranians for all those years that he was with the IAEA. And I just don't think the Israelis have much longer to wait. I mean, we're going to either live in a world with a nuclear Iran and a threat to their very existence, or they're going to have to act in fairly short order.
I think that's right. I don't think there's much time to act, and I think the fall of an Egyptian government committed to the peace agreement will almost certainly speed that timetable up.
Okay, Israel's going to war. That's a perfect time not to strike. If you notice that Bibi Netanyahu, who I like him in the sense that I know what he is. He's a Philly guy who's a man of the right. He is not making a sound because he knows this is one time to cool it.
Well, John Bolton seems to be looking for a silver lining here, which would be war with Iran.
Okay, I mean, if you care about Israel right now, what you should care about is Hezbollah doesn't strike now, because it is a time to warm up that, heat up that fight.
In Egypt, that's the best thing, and Netanyahu knows that, and he's been playing.
By the way, al-Baradei, whatever his role is in the streets of Egypt, at least he's out there trying to build a positive government, from what I can tell. al-Baradei was, as you point out, was dead right about there not being weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
And that's why they hate him.
So, Sean, don't bring up al-Baradei. He was right. You guys were wrong. Thank you, David Corn. Thank you, Joan Walsh.